name is David Gale, and I'm the Vice President of Communications here. How you doing? I said, how you doing? I can understand being sluggish directly after lunch. You can be a little bit low, but we've already had a workshop in between. So how are we doing so far at the conference? Are you getting some good stuff? Yeah? Yeah? You're learning some stuff? We have a Twitter handle, hashtag ACTRA TOMC. ACTRA TOMC. MC is Members Conference. So if you're into Twitter, please go on there and hashtag that you're doing this. Tweet that you're having a great time. See who you've met. Say that you're actually sitting here about to hear the amazing words of Michael Riley. We are so lucky to have with us again. Welcome to the workshop called Michael Riley 2.0, Acting for the Camera. Method or myth? Dun, dun, dun. How many people, just a show of hands, how many people were here at Michael Riley 1.0, at the last one?
Going to hear a lot of the same blather there.
Yeah. All right, so we are really lucky to have Michael back. You know, many people who were here last time and who are at the last conference where Michael was here and didn't make it to his workshop were kicking themselves because they had heard how marvelous it was and how much learning was going on. So we brought Michael back for a second time. So Michael, the actor. Michael's career has been remarkable by the range of roles he's performed. To quote Michael himself, he's played everything from a dog to a serial rapist to a cross-dressing opera singer. A graduate of the National Theatre School in Montreal, Michael's an accomplished stage actor and was nominated for Best Actor Dora's a credible 4 times in a period of 6 years. In film, Michael has most often been seen in independent productions, including Diplomatic Immunity, Black Swan, Perfectly Normal, Punch, and Pale Saints, for which he was nominated for a Genie Award. On television, he's been more mainstream. He starred in the Canadian miniseries Chasing Rainbows and The Private Capital, and the TV movies From Homeless to Harvard, To Catch a Killer, Butterbox Babies, and he received Best Lead Actor Geminis for his work in The Facts Behind the Helsinki Romanticos and The Interrogation of Michael Crow. Michael has made guest appearances on TV shows such as Due South, The Outer Limits, and Flashpoint, for which he earned a Best Guest Actor Gemini. For 2 seasons, Michael stars as the smug ex-New York agent Brett Parker in CTV's Power Play, for which he collected 2 Best Lead Actor Geminis. Michael also played the neurotic lawyer Elliot Sachs in This Is Wonderland for 3 seasons on the CBC, which earned a Gemini nomination and a win. And of course, we all know Michael as Dr. Tom on CBC's Being Erica, for which he was also nominated for 2 Geminis. I mention all these awards because they are adjudicated by our peers. Michael is an actor's actor, and for the next 2 hours, he's going to share some of his acting techniques with you. Michael, the teacher, has taught acting at Canadian Film Centre, the Summer Institute of Film and Television, and the National Theatre School. And he's here for his sisters and brothers at ACTRA Toronto. Please welcome back Michael Riley.
Thank you.
Now, people are going to think that it's just about 2 middle-aged white guys with gray in their beards, but it's not. Okay, so there's been a lot of controversy about the title of this particular workshop.
Right, you named it, right?
I named it.
It's all your fault.
It's my fault, my fault. So people are going to want to know why we called it that.
Yeah, this is all going to center around just, where I'm coming from in reference to this work. So it's all IMHO, but...
IMHO?
In my humble opinion.
Okay.
I think
Acronym alert.
That's about the only texting references I know.
Oh.
Maybe just to start with the genesis of why I came about this idea and why I started teaching in this way in the first place is because the genesis of it was when I was in theater school in 3rd year. It was way back many moons ago, 1984, and we'd gone through our whole 3-year conservatory classical thing. And somebody was, who shall remain nameless, who was a producer at the time, came and taught a workshop, and it was called Acting for the Camera. And of course, us, all of the students, having gone through this 3 years, we were all ears. I mean, we certainly wanted to hear what he had to say, and we're interested in finding out about this new and mysterious medium of film and television. And it was a 3-day workshop, and like I say, we had nothing to compare it to except everything that we'd done in the 3 years, our work as actors. And then he basically proceeded to, fill our heads with every erroneous notion to do with what that was, or what acting in front of the camera was.
Such as?
Such as do nothing on camera is what you do, such as the camera loves you or it doesn't love you, this kind of thing. I mean, literally, one of the first things we did is he basically sat a chair in front of the workshop thing, and he had the camera on, and he just had each one of us, just one by one, just go and sit down in the chair in front of the monitor, and just look down the barrel and just sit there. We had no lines, nothing to do, so okay. And so, somebody went first, a girl in our class, and he literally just, we're all looking at the monitor, and he's like, the camera loves Helen. You see that? The camera loves her. And we're all, immediately, as actors, we all know there's two thoughts that went through our head. First of all, it's like, yeah, God, the camera does love Helen, that's incredible. And then, of course, will the camera love me when I get up there, And
Did he ever explain
not
why
really.
the camera
There
loves
was
her?
not a lot of cogent explanation in regards to any of that. It was just, it basically started there, and like I say, he just, every misnomer about the thing that I had known nothing to compare to, we went ahead and did. And so, obviously, needless to say, we were all very confused. I felt very confused at the end of that. Okay, better just stick with the theater then, because I know nothing about any of that. And then I was fortunate enough when I left theater school to, in the next year and a half after graduating, I got to spend some time in front of the camera, kind of intense periods of time. And so the penny started to drop that what we had been taught was, completely wrong, and that, and so I was asked to go back to the theater school for the first time to teach, and I didn't imagine, and I still don't accuse myself of that now, that I have anything to teach. But my raison d'etre for going back was just to basically right a wrong. I just wanted to go and, let these students know who had come through this whole, they were at the peak of this 3-year, invaluable learning curve, and they were being told basically, in not so many words, to throw out the baby with the bathwater, just like, everything you've learned, in other words. He didn't come out and say it, but basically it was everything you've learned, forget about all that. And I basically had one thing to say to them. I could have said it in a sentence, but I spent 3 days with them, which was, that's not true. Like, we need all of that for so many reasons that I can talk about. But I started to around the one thing, this acting for the camera myth or method idea. I've always kept the name of, every time I've taught, I've kept the name of the workshop called Acting for the Camera. Because because I hate the title, that's why I've kept the title. Because it has inherent in it an assumption that is antithetical to what I believe. And the not-so-hidden assumption is that acting for the camera is somehow inherently different than acting on the stage, as the big demarcation. And I just fundamentally don't believe that's true, and I can, talk about it from a few different facets. But basically, I think that the process of preparing for and working on a character and playing a character moment to moment in a scene, second to second in a scene, all that internal mechanism is exactly the same, regardless of the medium. Blanket statement, now you can go on. There's all sorts of technical constraints and considerations about acting in the medium of film and with the camera and all that kind of stuff, but acting for the camera is a bad notion. There is no acting for the camera.
So what you divide is, so you do admit that areas of acting within the medium of film and television technical things might be different than if you were doing on stage.
Yeah, but those are technical things, and what happens, and those are buried sets of instincts that you learn by doing, hitting marks and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you learn that, and that's what I mean by, the process. Just to go back, so it's the same regardless of the medium, but the process of working on a part, the internal mechanism of playing a character moment to moment, is always going to have to pass through the filter of the medium, with all said, constraints and technical demands, but the actual nuts and bolts process of doing it is the same. And, like one of the examples I use when I teach is saying, because most people that are actors that come to the medium have had this wealth of experience, invaluable experience in the theater, which is important for so many reasons. But, so I use this example of, say you were in a play, so imagine that you're in a play, like tonight, and you had a 2.5-week rehearsal. You're the lead in the play. It's an amazing piece of writing. The rehearsal period was incredible. You had an amazing director. You're playing in a 900-seat house, and it was just one of those utopian experiences where you just kept doing the archaeology in rehearsal, and now out every night in front of 900 people, you're just finding new facets all the time. One of those, that make actors salivate kind of experiences. If you, so now it's Wednesday night, and you're in the middle of this run, which has been going amazingly great, and, the stage manager comes on the tannoy and says, okay, places, everybody, have a great show. Oh, by the way, there's been a bird flu outbreak or whatever, and nobody's in the audience, but there is one guy, and he's sitting in the front row. Okay, places, and that was it. As any of us walked to the stage, up to the wings, I'm not going to have to rework my biography or, figure out how my character moves through the play. My contention is that my performance is going to automatically come out a little more intimately because my machine knows that I'm being regarded a little more intimately. Just like that. Because there he is in the front row, and he just wants to be told the truth, and he's not there. So the need and the onus to communicate like that goes away, and now this is what I'm communicating to. And like I say, I don't have to rework my biography, or maybe that impulse will be too big. No, none of that. It's the same. It's Wednesday night, it's 8 o'clock, and now somehow in the back of my brain and at an instinctive level, things start to become a little more intimately, sheerly because I know I'm being regarded a little more intimately. And what that allows is for us as actors to not throw out the baby with the bathwater, to bring with everything. Anyway, I'm going to go on.
No, that's what you're here for.
And I can talk about it from a couple of different angles too, just because this was how the pennies kind of dropped for me. When I left, just about size and about communication and this kind of stuff. When I left theater school, and I did 8 years of theater in a row, film and television was way off somewhere, probably even kind of poo-pooed in my head as less than or something at the time. But I got the opportunity to play a lot of big houses where you learn a lot in those big houses. And I was thinking about this kind of stuff, and High Park was probably one of the arenas where I learned a lot, because in those outdoors, no roof, an amphitheater, 2,000 people drunk by 8 o'clock coming to see Shakespeare, there was, what I learned in those 3 summers was I could actually be quite contained, and if I was communicating to my scene partner, and if I had done the homework, and if I was galvanized into communicating the play, and I had, and this is the thing, clarity of thought. If my thoughts were clear, I could actually be quite, I'm not going to say still, or I could be quite contained in those big spaces and still have the faith that I could reach the back of a house. It almost became more communicative when it came down like that. You know that feeling on either side of the audience. And at the same time, I was thinking about, cinema performances that I loved, and they were all, the actors that I was, loving, like the Jack Nicholsons and the Pacinos and the Oldmans and the De Niros. They were doing things on huge screens when their eyeballs were 30 feet high that were quite theatrical by nature. So I had, on the one hand, God, you can be really, small, contained in these big spaces, and these guys can be, theatrical, quote unquote, in these, this. And so what was going on? It certainly wasn't do nothing on camera, on all that kind of stuff. So this was in my head,
Mm-hmm.
And I think the penny really dropped for me when I was shooting something in England, and I'd never seen a play in the West End, and it was like this romantic. I wanted to go in the West End and see a play, and I went to see Derek Jacobi in a play called God Knows, and I was it was about an 800-seat house, and I was probably 30 rows back or whatever, and Derek's about this big, but he just proceeded to come out, of course, and be brilliant, and I was just. We all were just like, fuck, this is like an amazing, this is an amazing performance. And because I was thinking about all of this kind of stuff, I was thinking, what is it, And I had this kind of thought experiment in my head where I was thinking, okay, if you had a camera on there, here I am 20 rows back, and here he is this big being brilliant. And if you had a camera on him right now, following him in close-up, and you simulcast it over here with a big official-size movie screen, mm-hmm. I knew for a fact, this was after intermission and when I was thinking about this, I knew that I could look there and see Derek on stage give a brilliant, transcendent, focused, incredible, committed theater performance. And I could go like this, and I could see same actor in the same moment give an incredibly, it wasn't too big, it was just as organic, it was just real, true, transcendent acting, real, true, transcendent acting. And that's kind of where I went, oh, well, aside from the technical constraints and considerations, there is no difference. And I think one of the things that always maddens me, that, as I say, became a raison d'etre to teach and to expel this notion, is that when actors come to the medium, especially coming out of the theater, they're filled with things like do nothing and, the camera will love you or it won't, and those are complete fallacies. And what it does is it tends to disarm us with all this great arsenal of stuff that we've built up. And kind of, well, what is this new and mysterious medium of film and television? No.
That's great. So you're talking specifically now about the actual performance, but we know that it's not just a performance that springs out of the air. We have to prepare for it. And the preparation for a theater piece is because you get 2, 3, if you're lucky, 4, 5 weeks of rehearsal, mm-hmm. To work on your character and to understand yourself. And when you're doing TV, and let's say you have a 3-line part or a 5-line part or even a 10-line part, the truth is you might get nothing except for blocking for the camera, shoot it.
Right.
So those are all the stuff you were talking about that you're bringing to the table. Is that process different? And
that's the one thing that actors that have experience in the theater come with. Film and television can be a haven for lazy acting. It can, because, you memorize a couple of pages at a time, and it's an hour of intense activity surrounded by 3 hours in your trailer or by the donuts or whatever. And, so it can become habitually a lazy place to act. And when the fact is, it actually is begging for your work ethic. It's begging for your theater chops. It wants that because of the things that you're saying, David. It's like and so you start to combine them. You don't have that kind of rehearsal. So as an actor, I'm very romantic about why we're storytellers and why we're actors and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's an important medium, and I think it serves a critical function and all of that kind of stuff. And I think when you come from the theater into this medium, you have to, every time there is film running through the camera on a Wednesday morning at 6:57 a.m., or when the light's going down and they're losing the light, anytime there's film running through a camera, it's opening night. And because it is. You're committing something to celluloid or tape or digitally or whatever that is that's what it is. And so, you don't get, sometimes you do get rehearsals on a film, and sometimes that can be detrimental depending on the director, but you have to therefore build your own rehearsal process. You have to know that first day of principal photography and every moment that the camera's running thereafter is opening night. And you wouldn't dare step on stage for 2 hours in front of 800 people without having given it a shit and a thought and really worked at it. So why would you think you could, just, say your lines and not bump into the furniture in this medium?
That's true. We might have a hard time finding a camera with film in it, though.
Right.
But,
well, it tells you how old I am.
Yeah. Right.
Don't they go?
Yeah, they do not. No, not anymore. That's, I know. What can you do? Okay, so let's back it up a little bit here, and we can see that you're definitely passionate about this, and you don't see the difference in it, and you don't believe that there is it, and that you have to bring your game to every moment, no matter what it is, and do your work. So how would one? Some people just by applause. How many people have not come from the theater world?
It's a smattering, right?
A smattering.
Right.
How many people have come from the theater world? How many people don't speak English, so they don't know what I'm asking? But you're clapping.
It is. It's like a...
How'd that work out? Clap now. Clap now.
It is.
So, where would you say to start? Like, how would you say if you're going to do a character for your opening night, or for your 3 lines, or where would the first start? Like on character? You want to talk about character?
Yeah, I do want to talk about character, but I know that if I start talking about that, that's going to like supernova into something over here. So the 2 more things I want to talk about just in regard to this relationship to the camera thing.
You've prepared.
Well, I know now that the arena in which we're speaking, and I just kind of want to drive some of these points home. Well, for instance, like these notions of like when this teacher who remains nameless said, do nothing on camera, or the camera will love you. The thing about the camera is it has no opinion of you, and like whatsoever. It doesn't give a shit. It just, I'll make the sound to show you, but it just like it just sits there. It's just a truth-seeking black eye, and it will, the best and worst that you have to put in front of it, it will just not judge you. It will just sit there and just
record
like
you. It'll
and
just
record you. It's a recording device that has no opinion. Now, you can get into things like hit and stuff like that. I don't know how many actors, it's a Rothenbergese thing about your hit. About and we can talk about that too, but I feel like just sticking with that point of that it has no opinion of you. So when someone says, when this guy said, oh, the camera loves Helen, or when the camera loves you, all of that, unless it's some very shallow aesthetic about a beautiful woman or a beautiful man, and that's just so, that's not what we're talking about. When someone says the camera loves you, what they're responding to is, in IMHO, what they're responding to is the true emotional access that you have to yourself, and the simplicity and the grace and the elegance with which you express that access that you have to yourself. That's what the camera loves. That's what an audience loves. So it's actually not even about the camera. We like the true emotional access you have to yourself, and the simplicity and the grace with which you express that access. That's what we eat up. That's when the lights go down and our willing suspension of disbelief is there. That's what we want to see. It would be like... just to put one more nail in that coffin, it would be like, a sound engineer, Yo-Yo Ma, I've used this example before. Yo-Yo Ma is doing a beautiful cello thing behind the glass, and the engineer, he finishes some amazing concerto, and he's brilliant, and, everyone in the booth is crying, and it's like one of those, and like the engineer is not going to, press the little button and go, Yo-Yo, this 24-track digital recording bank loves you, man.
They will, but they're high. So
that guy was, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But the engineer is responding to the true emotional access that Yo-Yo has to himself and the grace with which he expresses that access through the instrument of his cello. And this is our instrument.
The opposite of the camera loves you and telling the truth is that you're a big liar. And the audience can see it.
It always like, when that demarcation is made between, film and theater and all of that stuff, it always bothers me fundamentally because, I've been in a lot of casting sessions too on the other side of the table, and, theater actors will come in and they'll do their thing, and then they'll leave, and maybe they weren't so great that afternoon or in that 5 minutes,
Sure.
And the cast, I've heard casting directors like turn to the producers because it's on their own as they've brought them in and say, he just was a little off today. He's a theater actor, and so he was a little bit, that's all. We can fix that kind of thing. And I was like, of course I don't say anything, but no, he just did bad acting there. That's all that was,
Not bad theater acting, just bad acting.
Yeah, let's go see him tonight in his show, and let's see if he's any more believable there. I mean, and so I just don't think that because it's not just, first of all, dispel it from our minds as actors, but then even once it's clearly dispelled, know that you're in a medium where, people still have this distinction in their heads. Casting has that distinction. Oh, she's a theater actor. Oh, she's no. A good actor is a good actor regardless of the medium.
It's interesting that you said, it's interesting you said that because earlier today at one of our workshops, some of the actors were discussing the idea that acting for an audition was somehow different acting than acting in a film or
and
TV.
It is, there are subtle distinctions.
So acting for auditions is different.
Well, an audition, as we know, still the nuts and bolts of it is you have to tell the truth and serve up the thing, and there is a camera running and all of that. But auditions are just fraught with so much pretense that it's very hard sometimes to. It's not a conducive atmosphere to really play a scene and to bring to bear what you have. So that can become tricky. So there is a skill set to auditioning well or better that really is not so much about what we're talking about, but just different.
Yeah. So you did touch on it earlier, and we've heard about it before. Does everyone know the idea of your hit? You heard about your hit? There are certain acting teachers in the world who believe that you are from your look and from the energy you give off, essentially a type, and that you should always get cast as that type, whether you're a lawyer or a nurse or a sexy, whatever it is. And it can be pegged, and that's really what you should focus on in your career. How do you feel about that?
Well, with all absolute due respect to the teachers that teach that way, and a lot of respect. It's David. David's an amazing teacher who I've learned when I went to teach. I went to David to get a lot of just stuff and format, and that's a font of wisdom there. But there is a Rothenbergese to all of that I deeply respect. But my one just personally, as an actor, just coming out of theater school, and I started hearing of that word, and, hit is all that, we don't have to spend a long time on it, but, married, single, upper, middle, lower, city, country, age, it's very simply just it's the cover by which your book is judged. Before you open your mouth and say anything, we look at the physiognomy of your face and the general, kinesthetic weight of your body, and we start to make some assumptions about whether you have kids or whether you from the country or the city, and those are very good things, and they're real. And so the danger is that once people hear it, and this is my contention with it, is that the danger is you can start to go, oh God, okay, well I'm only going to play that then. That's my hit. They told me that's my hit. So casting's only going to cast me as that. I can only play in this little box, and that's completely not true. So, and you don't have to throw one out for the other. Know thy hit, basically, is the commandment. Know your hit, but then for me, it's fundamental that that's your starting place. That's where you start. You start there, and then on your journey towards character, it gives you a place to start. When Charlize Theron plays Monster, that is completely out of her wheelhouse in terms of her hit. So she had to then, knowing that, she had to consciously go ahead and make all of these adjustments to everything in order to play that character. And it's the same for us. We all have tics and idiosyncrasies and things that are personally ours. But then you approach a character and you got to, most of this stuff, you got to wipe this slate clean and start here, and so knowing your hit is one of those things for sure.
Well, that's a very good springboard into talking about character then, and and this is your process of creating the role. Talk about that.
Yeah, there's no set kind of process 1 to 47 or anything. It really is, and we all know that as actors. It's you have your toolbox, and it's been filled by every teacher that you've ever had, and every experience you've ever had, and whether you're conscious or unconscious of it, that's the kit that you hold, and you stare up at the mountain of some role in front of you, hopefully scared out of your mind in a healthy way, and you just start to go, God, what am I going to need for this, And so the process changes every time. I think that, I could talk about character for hours, but
please do.
But the one overarching thing that I would want to communicate would be that I think that a lot of actors, and just even trained actors and stuff, we have there is a default in us to bring characters over into our comfort zone. And I think that that's a danger and a disservice both to you as an actor, to the audience, to the piece, to the writer, to the project. You have to, Michael Mollison was a long past now, but he was our text acting teacher in theater school, and he always had an analogy, and I was 22 at the time, and it just stuck with me, and it basically set up it indoctrinated me into a way of looking at the work that's never gone away, and it's what I'm talking about here. And it's that, he would talk about text, which relates to character, of course, but it's the same thing. He would talk about text, he would say that it's a pseudo, sounds like a sexual metaphor, but it's not. He said the text is the male and the actor is the female. So the text penetrates the actor and then gestates around for a while and then gives birth to the character. So, in other words, not what can I do to this script, not what can I do to this, what can this do to me? And right from square one, before you've opened up Act 1, Scene 1, you're already in a totally different gestalt, because you're not trying to go, what can I do with this? You're opening the invitation to what is this asking me to do? And that's a completely, first of all, more in keeping with the job description of what you have to do, but also just way more fun and way more interesting to know what matches up over here and not. And I think it's almost dangerous too when, sometimes you'll play a character where, it's easier, those things become more apparent when a character is far away from you. So I've been lucky, and I've played a few characters that are like way off there somewhere. So, I got the teeth and the glasses and the thing and the accent, and that's going to be, I know I can't. I got to go over there. I got to find what that is and make it organic so it feels like over here. But sometimes when it's more dangerous when roles are seemingly close. What am I? I'm the lawyer. He's 52. I'm like, okay. So those things that they call it's close to the vest. It's a close to the vest role. So instead of being way out here, it's about as far as your vest is. It's got that much distance. And so usually what happens, and no fault of our own, it's just I think human nature and everything else, is you just go, close the gap. I'll just play me. And I think that especially when there's that, there are fractals of possibility in that little distance between the edge of that vest and you, that by closing that gap, you're fundamentally and unconsciously saying no to all of the myriad discoveries that could be made right in there, where it seems so, it's me, just know my lines and don't bump into the furniture kind of thing.
And
I think it's dangerous.
Is it letting the text
Yeah, do something to you
Do
instead
something
of
to you
you doing
where
something to the
where you
text.
discover the myriad of interesting choices that happen between you and your vest. I'm trying to. How do you access that air pocket?
By being religious about and being insatiably curious about who this other person is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a whole, and like I say, I could just, there's a whole, you know, there's a whole lot of faux distinctions in IMHO. There are a lot of faux distinctions about, you know, personality actors, leading actors, character actors. That, you know, it's like, usually those are like the funny butlers or something. I don't know how we start to make these demarcations. But to me, every actor is a character actor. By simply because of the fact that every role you ever play, unless you play you in your own biopic, and good luck, because that'll actually be, ironically, your most difficult role that you ever play, because it'll necessitate that you know more about you than you know about yourself, you know. But you know, how do you start from scratch? And I think, you know, this whole way of, you know, it's like when you plant a seed in the ground, and you know, when you plant a seed in the ground, what the seed does is it decomposes. That's what it does. It decomposes and it lays down roots in fertile ground, hopefully, and then the plant comes up. And so, you know, Mawson kind of put that in our head. If you think of a script like that, i.e. a script, a character, as a seed that you're planting in the fertile imagination of you, you know, and then let those roots find that fertile ground. Like, you know, it's a, you know, at a certain point, it's a, you know, slightly, with all the mechanics in tow, it's a slightly mysterious process. Like, how do you, you know, how do you wipe your eraser board clean and start to invite this other person that you have no idea about? And I think there's all myriad ways to do that, all predicated too on the type of every time you do it, it's a little bit different, and every role necessitates different things in order to get there. But that, you know, it's a critical threshold of information. And so to become insatiably curious means to just keep asking questions, keep no stone unturned, no stone unturned. It's all going to be grist to the mill. I mean, let's say it this way. If you know, if opening night is every time film's running through the camera, and you know that you basically want to get the hell out of your own way, and so by the time the lights go down at 8 o'clock on opening night, or by the time film is running through the camera, you want to hope. For me, I want to be in a place where he can kind of take care of himself now. Mm-hmm. I just have to push him out there, knowing what he needs to do, with his head full of thoughts and his heart full of, you know, doubts, and his, you know, and a drive and a connection to know what he wants. Send him out there and let him do it. It's actually not. It's a very selfless thing, you know. It's not a, you know, acting seems like a very self-full thing, but it's actually a very artist period, a very selfless thing. You know, to get out of your way enough. And all artists have this, right? Mm. You say that you'll hear a choreographer say to a dancer, you know, Barbara, you know this piece. You're perfect. Your line is great. You've been dancing for 14 years. You know, you just have to dance it now. Like that's the direction the choreographer will give. So you just have to let the dance you. Same thing with any art form. Let's, you know, like in Chinese painting, there, you know, in the old origins of Chinese painting, they had a whole kind of ritual that was about invoking the honored guest, and that's all about, you know, getting out of the way and inviting God into your scene in a funny way. You know what I mean? Like, and isn't it true? I mean, this is what I feel. I'm sure you feel the same way. Like when a scene is really, am I talking too much?
No.
When a scene is.
Why did I fall asleep?
No. I like your beard, by the way.
Thank you.
When a scene is really going well, we all know that feeling, because the feeling is when it's going well, it's kind of like it is playing itself. You know, it's like sustained flight. You know, it's like it just all of a sudden it's buoyant and it's doing it. And ironically, sometimes the more emotional a scene is, where the mind would say, "God, I'm really going to have to be there if I'm going to like emote like that." Actually, it's not true. The more emotional demand the scene is, the more Elvis needs to leave the building. And when those are really, when that stuff's going well and you feel it and your system is, all that homework has taken over, you might as well be sitting in the front row or over by the monitors with everybody else, because you've done a critical threshold of homework that now allows you to put those bags down in the wings, walk on empty-handed, and let him fight for what he's fighting for. Let her fight for what she's fighting for, you know?
That's great.
You
You
know?
know, I wondered how long it would take before we got to the soaring, because I knew that they'd be soaring, and I knew that the Chinese painting. So
You're lucky this isn't wine.
it's fantastic. So I think we should let's try to get a little bit practical when it comes to the character work, because I know you're talking about a toolkit and you're talking about a lifetime of learning and understanding, but some people are at different places in their careers.
Sure.
Some people don't have a benefit of an expensive theatrical education.
Sure.
And let's say they have a 4-line part. They're a nurse, or they're a security guard, or they're somebody's uncle. You don't know anything about this character, but you
Right.
have to come in and you say, let these lines somehow
Yeah.
affect you
thing
and,
is, yeah.
and get you pregnant.
Now, so everything I've said, you keep all that, absolutely. Now, but also that we know when we're doing those kind of parts that it's, like you would if you're playing, like what is the function of the scene? Whether you're the lead in something or whether you're the guest in something, you still, like the dramaturgical overview of what is this scene about? What is the function of, if your function in the scene is to bring the drink in, then that's what you're going to do, you know? But still, for your own pleasure that day, without gilding the lily or whatever, or taking the focus off the function of the scene, you can find small paintbrush ways to create a real person that comes in, because you wouldn't be in the scene if it didn't serve some kind of function, regardless of how practical that function is. Mm-hmm. And so and also just to keep your imagination alive, and to all of the same acting 101 rules apply across the board, whether you're doing Lear or whether you're doing the hot dog stand guy. Right. Right. It's still the same. Are you engaging with your scene partner? Are you alive and available in the scene? Are you feeding the scene? Or are you taking away from the scene? Like all of that stuff. So I would say in terms of how to prepare for that stuff, obviously you might not need to spend 2.5 weeks, going to restaurants and watching how different, unless that, but just keeping in the back of your head that, it isn't, I mean, like I said, I'm romantic. So if we're holding up the mirror to man, so we'll take the waiter. So we walk outside en masse and go to a restaurant or whatever. Maybe not en masse, but you just start to look around at people who fill those. The doctor who comes in and gives you the bad news. Whatever that particular thing is, every single doctor, waiter. They're idiosyncratic, particular. They're always serving their function. They're not making it about them. It's all the same stuff. They're a real, living, breathing human being with a job to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one of the things too. Like when you even look at there's a universal sound of a cop. Hey Johnson, where were you last night? There's that.
It's a cop in the 50s.
The cop in the 50s. There was always. Mawson always used to talk about the universal and the specific, with characters like that. You start with, this does have a sound, but to not throw away the universal, but not to stop there, and to find that specificity, find those details, and again, not with big swaths of color necessarily, but just, it's like Hamlet's advice to the players, you're going to suit the action to the blah and the blah to the blah, every part's going to have that,
I was at
There's
the
no
Bay.
small parts.
I was at the Bay the other day, and I was served by this woman was the cashier, and she was so unengaged with me. Mm. She was she was so like she couldn't care. I don't even think she looked at me.
Right.
She took the thing. She did this. She did this. She was sighing. But she was so interesting to watch.
Right.
Because I went, how could she put you like, this
Right.
is not, this is the antipathy of
And so
service.
in a
It was
scene,
the
let's
opposite.
say, where that was appropriate, like say a comedy or could even be a drama depending on the
Right.
scene, but if it's if someone's really going on about their thing and it's all very pseudo-important at the table and she comes in,
Yeah.
that's actually interesting. And that's born of a real person.
Yeah.
She's got a biography, that
Yeah.
woman. There's a reason why she's, having one
She
of
only
those
had
days,
3
you know?
lines.
Right.
So,
It's a very, what always, I think one of the hardest things to do, just while we're in this wheelhouse, one of the hardest things to do is to come on and play parts where you don't have some big whacking through line to play and all that stuff. That's hard. It's like, that's like the leads have, it's like a moving train that's just been going for forever at speed. And, the regulars have been on that train since Cincinnati for 4 years or whatever. You're jumping on that train at speed, doing your thing and jumping off, at speed, rolling down the thing when it's over half the time,
let the stunt people do that, please.
So you have to, so it's a more difficult job. And if I've been fortunate enough to be in positions where I have been a lead on the train, to me, my favorite casts of regulars, there's a reason why they call them guests, because you're a guest, And so I think it's up to the regulars to be hosts and to make it, to take to account that that's hard what he's doing. That's hard what she's doing. That's not easy. So, the thing's the church has to hold everybody, And you might only have a little prayer and you might have a big prayer, but you got to.
I love that analogy. That's lovely. Church. You did some specific, last time, you did some specific technical suggestions when dealing with another character in a scene that had to do with you want to push them away, you want to pull them towards you, you want to, there was sort of there was more than just the words that you were having. You were talking about actually needing something from the other person.
I can't remember exactly what I was talking about, but it's all, again, all of these, I'm talking to a bunch of actors, so I know I'm preaching to the choir. Anything you say about acting is 101, rudimentary, simple things that do bear repeating, because the craft never changes. What do you want? Where have you come from? All of those things. Are you engaging with your scene partner? Those things never go away no matter what you're doing, and yet they're oft discarded and stuff like that. They're, as an audience that you don't care what actor A is doing, and I don't care what actor B is doing. I don't care how much homework actor B has done and how much preparation and how passionate they are, and conversely, how much I only give an ultimate crap about what is going on between actor A and actor B. And that is, again, that's up to, what you're doing in a scene. What you're doing in a scene is not about you, actually. You want something, but you want something from that other person. It's always that, I know when I started, I always had this thing of like, why is it when I'm off camera, I'm just way better, like, well, why is it when I do off-camera lines, so the big eye has been looking at me, and I somehow muddled my way through, and then they're turning around now on my scene partner, and I'm thinking, oh God, I should have whatever, and then all of a sudden it's his turn or her turn, and I'm brilliant over here, and I just want to go, hey,
Why do you think that is?
It's exactly because what happens when the camera's not on you is it's not on you. It's not about you anymore. It's literally about, because now we're good Canadian, polite, hardworking actors. So it's not me now. And now you're free. You're free to feed your intention and want what you want from the other person and surprise them and do stuff to them over there. Which is ultimately interesting and freeing to watch, because that's what people do. People don't act in vacuums, It's about the other person. And it's so like, oh, phew, hallelujah, I can get out of my own head. It's not about me, And all of the text and all of the craft and stuff that just goes about that. But just to ask that simple question, like, what do I want from this person? Why am I here? What do I want? And how badly do I want it? all of a sudden, you can change the temperature in a scene, in an audition for that matter.
That's fantastic. Now, let's get back to that train you were talking about, a series, a moving train. It's been going for a number of years, and there's guests on it, and they come and they go, and the series goes on. Now, you've been blessed with a number of these sort of back-to-back for a number of years, where you were working in one series, and this is Wonderland, and I mean, as I said in the bio, being Erica, and then these series end. What happens then?
Are you talking about the big E word?
I'm talking about the big E word.
I actually asked David to talk about the E word. The U word.
U word.
Sorry. The U word. Actually, I had a producer who said to me, I said, what are you going to talk about? I said, well, one of the things I want to talk about is unemployment. He said, oh, God, no. He said, don't call it unemployment. He said, call it career survival technique or something like this, which made me laugh.
Potato, potato.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about it because I've been unemployed when it clicks over to March, it'll be 22 months. I haven't worked in 22 months, and not for lack of wanting to, or lack of trying, or going out for stuff, and putting myself on tape, and blah, blah, blah. And so I don't, not to, I know that I want to keep things like this, but I think part of that is talking about a real, the part of the actor's life. When, you sign on for this, you accept this call to adventure to be an actor in whatever manner that you have, and, you are willingly signing the contract for all the slings and arrows, and so really it's a coin with two sides, and you're either working or you're looking for work, right? And so no matter how prolific your career is or whatever's happening, you're always going to surf out this, feast or famine thing, this employment, unemployment. And, for me in the last 22 months, it's been really interesting for me to find ways and to become cognizant of how do you keep all of that? How do you keep all of that up and running and keep your romance about it and keep how do you do that? And everyone has to answer that question very personally and for themselves. But
so how do you do it? How have you kept your morale up? How have you?
It is about morale. One of the things that for me that I found first in the first 11 months was your confidence obviously starts to your confidence starts to erode on two fronts. Like your confidence starts to erode that you're ever going to work again. Like, oh my God, I'll never work again. I've been in the business 30 years, and that's it. Fuck, that's it. And so your confidence that something is going to happen starts to erode, and probably more viscerally, your confidence that if someone said, "Oh, you got a job," or your confidence that you could actually rise to the occasion to do it starts to erode. It's like I feel like I've been in the Philharmonic for a long time, and I've played the violin, but now someone's asking me to play, and it's been sitting in the closet for 24 months, and you want me to play now? Like I don't know if I could play now. Hurry, let me, And I've felt that in auditions. Like I felt the atrophy of just the literal muscular psychological. It's not like riding a bike. Some of it is, but some of it's not. And fighting all of that, I think is a worthwhile level of discussion for sure.
Yeah.
But
So keeping your fiddle in tune and keeping yourself fit. The classes.
there's maybe like there's three facets of this, let's say, that I think that have been up and running for me. One is, there is a practical side to this stuff, for sure. Like I say, you're working or you're looking for work. And so, I changed agents, and I redid my demo, and I ordered a breakdown service and the thing, try to keep my ear to the ground of what's happening. When are they funding stuff? When is that? When do they get greenlit? What's going on? Who's doing what? Like you start to keep it, more phoning the agent. So what's going on again over with the thing? You start doing all that stuff. And then at a certain point, you're out of your element. There's nothing else you can do. So then the other half of it starts, where how do you keep it alive in yourself? taking classes, finding a place to work out, like and just silly things. I mean, I think it was in October, I just took two screen actors that I've always been enamored of, and I just said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to sit by the phone and do this week. I'm going to, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to pick two actors, and I'm going to watch every film they've ever done in order. So I took Gary Oldman and Daniel Day-Lewis, and some of the films I'd seen, some of them I hadn't, which was really interesting, and I chronologically went back, and it took me about 2 weeks, sat there with a yellow legal pad and go, okay. And and it was so much fun.
You must have been so depressed, though.
No, well, some of the
Exactly,
films,
make happy films.
But that was a part of, for me, I was inspired by, I stopped teaching because I didn't teach last year because I didn't feel like I had the right or the desire to preach what I wasn't practicing. I felt a bit fraudulent on that behalf. There's a part of me, there's a voice inside my head that feels like that right now, and so how do you, like that, keep that alive,
Who are you watching now?
I started watch. I went. I watched like every Academy Award film at the beginning of the year. I went out and watched. I saw American Hustle twice because I want to see Christian Bale do that again. And you start to just, that's a feeding process. I can remember the last time I had unemployment drought like this was living in LA. Of course, I lived there for 8 years, and I was a younger man then, of course, too. But there were friends of ours that were from all over the world, actors there from San Francisco and New York, and really good actors. And we just started. We were unemployed, and we just started going, let's read a play, And we started, we started doing like once a week. Okay, we're going to do Hurly Burly. We're going to do it at your house. You're going to be him. You're going to be here. You're going to be her. You have a week to prepare. We'll see. You do the pizza. You do the beer. Let's go. And we just sat in the guy's living room and drank beer and read the play and then talked about the play. And let's read it again now that we know what we're talking about. And, if you did that once a week, that's 52 plays. When's the last time? I know people that work in Stratford and Shaw and are there. That's their whole life. And they haven't read 52 plays last year. So there's always, left to your own devices, there is stuff to do, and coming to things like this and, just how do you keep your system running? How do you keep your, Daniel Day-Lewis, when I was going through his thing, he had a great quote. He takes time off on purpose because he wants to build shoes, and now he's now he's off being a mason because he wants to learn about, how to work with stone and stuff like that. But he talked about, how can you? He had a great quote that obviously meant something to me, where he said, dare you do it one more time? Dare you step into the arena one more time with fear and excitement jostling in equal measure? And that's what I get, because it's like, like scared out of your mind, but like, fuck, just keeping that somehow alive, whether it's for an audition or whether, and I've done 5 auditions on tape in the last 22 months. They were all ended up being self-tapes, and I tried not to, because that's the other thing that the occupational hazard, right, is every audition starts to become like, I really need this one now, And of course, the self-sabotage that happens there, you can't, it's like being on camera, it's like that thing again. When it becomes that important, when the stakes become that high, the self-sabotage becomes, huge. And so to get yourself in a frame of mind going, you know what? Yeah, the stakes are high, but I get to act today, and I'm going to work on this fucking thing, and I'm gonna, and I love self-tapes just because it costs a bit of money, and I drive an hour from out of the city, but it's mine, and we're going to do another take, and I'm not going to send anything off that I don't want to send, and they became little, if I could keep it under the umbrella for myself of just not making it about a process, an outcome, and making it about the work at hand, I had a great time. And then the irony is those are the ones you'll get anyway, because that's what they want to see. Mm-hmm. So again, it's not about, all of that. You got to get out of your way enough to do those too, But
well, I'm certain that every single person in this hall is feeling they are honored that you have offered your honesty about where you're at in your career right now. that gives me goosebumps that you are just to lay it out there, because it takes a lot of courage to be able to say, this is where I'm at in my career. I've had all this, and this is where I'm at. And to not, you're not sitting around in a pool of your own vomit.
Well, there've been a couple of nights.
Okay, I don't have to get into that.
But one of the things I say when I teach too is that I love this good quote where he says that an actor's career develops in public, but an actor's art develops in private. I love that because it just delineates exactly what I'm trying to say. The stuff that happens in public, the career aspect, is completely, for the most part, out of your control. So that happens in public. It's going to be what it is. That's just a big professional Yahtzee throw of fate. That's just what that's going to be. But your art in private, which is actually the more interesting, when you're on your deathbed, it's going to be that. That's why you're an actor, right? It's going to be that. How did you grow as an actor? What's the private world in front of your own canvas where, that's more important. That's the actor in private part. The art in private is way more important. Now, the career in public takes care of itself, So just paying homage to the art in private part, I think, is important.
Once again, you have brought art to ACTRA. Thank you very much. Now we would love to open up the audience to some questions. And so there are microphones there. It might just be easier if you got up to the microphone so we can hear the questions and don't have to repeat them. And that's great. So we have we're going into the microphones. Can you go? Okay, thank you. All right, we have somebody at number 1.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. Michael, what about doing student movies? Just to keep your hand in, do you approve of that or do you not approve of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've done a couple of, not in the last, I would have if someone would have said, hey, you want to come and do this short? I actually did a short. I did Rick Miller's short. I almost forgot about that. I was so nervous, too. And it wasn't a student film, per se. He was doing it, but it was a one-day shoot. Yeah. It was going to be a calling card for something else. And, hey, I got to be on a set. I got to have lines come out of my mouth and, had to figure out what I was going to do. And, the confidence, I was so nervous going in to do it. And then at the end of the day, I went, yeah, okay. It was good to play a few notes on that violin and okay. And then it got kind of, and then that goes away as the experience gets farther away. But absolutely,
I mean, I've played opposite you in a couple of different things, from Wonderland to being Erica and all the rest of it. Yeah. But when it's a dry period, I'll go do a student movie. I'm not too proud.
Totally.
I don't care.
Again, this is like, when you're on your deathbed, I brought death up twice now.
Yeah.
It's, you leave a theater school or you start your career or whatever, and you imagine that, because you're young and romantic, and that you're going to just play this swath of this infinite array of characters and things. And even if you're prolific and never stop working a day in your life, it's actually not going to be an infinite thing. It's going to be a finite. They're going to be able to fit on one little shelf, And so therefore, whether it's a student film, whether it's a play, an off, 90-seat theater you did way off the grid, or whether it was whatever that was, it's one of them. And so to treat it like that just takes the onus off. Unfortunately, if you're a painter, you get to give yourself permission to walk up into your attic anytime you want and paint. If you're a writer, which is great, that's the other thing too. If you're a writer and you're an actor, you don't have to wait for the phone to ring. No one has to give you permission to do that, and so to generate your own work in that way. But when you're an actor, you are beholden to. I have to wait for permission to get to do what I love to do. And so that's what we're talking about. So yeah, if something short comes up, it's better too, because it's not going to take you off the, the fear is, okay, if I do that, I don't, and then they're going to finally answer, they are going to call, and then I'm not going to be able to. But when they're short, it's like, yes,
Gordon Pinsent recently did a short film in his career. So
totally.
Yes, number 2.
Yeah, hi.
Just say your name.
My name is Brendan. Hi.
Hi, Brendan.
Hello, David. Hi, guys. Hi, everybody.
We're in a support group.
We're definitely at a support
Hi,
group.
Brandon.
I'm wondering who's somebody that you've worked with that's left an impression with you, and why? What do they do?
Wow. So many. I mean, the list is huge. I mean,
Pick 7.
like, well, you know, I mean, Aaron Carpluck, you know, just, you are, when the lead in something is so, or, you know, you know, Karapivko, you know, when someone is carrying something on their shoulders like that, and they come with that much, you know, ethic and romance about it, and prepared to work, and prepared to play, and prepared to fail even, and just the whole, it sets a tone, you know. So people like that, you know, she was always so great to work with in that way, because there was never a feeling of having to kind of start. It always came like this, you know. And so she did her homework, you know. On a film set, it's like a collision of homeworks. Mm-hmm. You know, you do your armchair work at home. She does her armchair work at home, and you come in it's a collision of those two sets of homeworks. And if people, it's just night and day if someone comes in and they really haven't given it too much of a thought, because so much is now just the problem solving of trying to get the scene up to be anything. But if someone comes in like that, now you get to start there. So I always, and not just those two people, but you know, there's you know, hundreds of them that I've worked. If someone comes to play, I'm impressed right away. You know, kids, I've done a lot of stuff where I've done films where I've learned so much off of like a 10-year-old or 9-year-old boy who's in the scene with me, because there's just something so abashedly, I mean, it's like an acting, you know, workshop when you work with young kids who are right in that zone where they haven't been, they're not acting yet, you know, they're actually just
reacting.
They're reacting. They're just, it's like their sense of pretend as a kid, and now they're like that hasn't gone away. So they're like, the Richter scale of their bullshit monitor is like huge. You can't lie to them. So you feel, I felt 10-year-old kids like drag me into scenes with them, you know, like it's here, you know, and it's like, whoa, you know, like, and that's great. So kids too, but anyone who comes to play, you know.
Yeah. Could you mind going to the microphones? We have microphones set up. Thank you.
I'll let the lady first.
Oh, that's very gentlemanly of you.
Thank you.
That's great.
It's very kind. My name's Allison.
Okay,
Hi,
I guess that
everybody.
lady. Okay, that's good.
Oh, sorry. Should I stop?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Speaking of coming to play, are you reading any plays right now? Like, do you want to do it next week?
Ooh, a play reading?
Yeah, like, I know I had a crazy drought in 2011. That was the first time I didn't work for 12 months, kept going. Exactly what you were talking about, like doubting my abilities, and then getting on a play workshop, working with all these like TV people, and then being like, oh, this is so much fun. I guess I can act, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to throw that, I love that idea, and if anyone wants to start reading a play next week and just acting, like, let's meet up after, because I want to play.
So I think that's a great idea. So why don't you come down at the end of the panel here and put your hand up, and people will come and give you their numbers.
Yeah.
I've loved doing.
Thank you, ACTRA Toronto.
You don't have to give them your number.
There's been a couple times too. I'll just say in reference to that as well. Like I live an hour east of the city, so in Peterborough there's a guy that has done, like I did Doubt, where we basically just got together for the day. I read the play, of course. We get together for the day. We rehearse for the day, and that night in front of 20, 30 people who show up in this little tiny space, we have music stands and we do Doubt. And I just was like, oh, it was just so satiating. That was more than 22 months ago, so I haven't done that this time. But absolutely, stuff like that's like manna from actor heaven.
That's right. That's there's AYA, one of our fabulous committees here, Actor Age Committee. They're actors. How do you define yourself again? Actors who?
We're veteran performers.
Veteran performers. Yes, we're veteran performers, and they get together. It's fantastic. Great workshops. I know it's called Actor Age, but it's veteran performers. Fantastic.
Nice.
Lubricated. You keep yourself lubricated. It's fantastic. Number one. Tell your name. Tell us your name.
My name is George Garlock, and I've been a member of ACTRA for almost 25 years. And I belong to AYA and get one hell of a lot out of it. Anyway, that's enough about me.
Do you have a question?
I have a question, and the question is, I wonder whether that visiting professor started out as a cameraman.
I don't want to talk about it too much. It's a he shall remain nameless kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I'm not trying to identify him, but that thought crossed my mind.
Yeah.
The other one is, in the 1960s and 70s, I was a publicist at CBC Television. And I remember doing a cross-country tour to promote a series called The Newcomers. And one of the members was Bruno Gerussi. Mm-hmm. And we were in Calgary, coast to coast. We were in Calgary at the university, and the question from the floor was, what's the difference between acting for television and stage? I'll never forget this. Mm-hmm. And Bruno thought for a moment, and he said, when you act on the stage, you act big. And when you act on television, you act small. So, and I just wanted to say that. That's all. That happened about 1979, I think.
Like I say, I mean, no lack of respect for Bruno. Of course, it's just not something that I found to be true. I mean, can I just talk a little bit about,
please.
Just in reference to this, the exchange that we have with the camera, it's the same exchange we have in front of a live audience, but the exchange with the relationship of an actor to a camera is a very dead, simple, uncomplicated relationship. And that relationship is, if you'll allow me, you think the thought crosses your face, the camera sees the thought cross your face, end of exchange. End of exchange. Now that, it's deceivingly simple, right? Because there's a real zen to that. Because you can spend I will spend the rest of my career, if I ever work again, continuing to hone just that. Think the thought crosses your face, camera sees the thought cross your face, the end. The epic trust required to actually trust that if I think the thought, is it really going to show up, Shakespeare called it the mind's construction on the face. And I think a thought, like a real thought, because, and this is just in reference to that, acting on stages, but that's where there's a long history of where that kind of stuff comes from. The stage is big and the camera is small, but, that's where things like to do nothing on camera becomes effective. Because to do more than just think a thought is to do too much. It's to show us that you're thinking a thought, to tell us about the character's thoughts instead of thinking the character's thoughts. That's a huge distinction. We want to see the wheels turning when we watch you, but we don't want to see you turning the wheels. We want to see the wheels turning. And that, and then so to do more than just think the thought is to do too much, and to do less than think the thought, which is where the whole do nothing on camera comes from, is to do less is not more. Like sometimes it's just not enough. To do nothing on camera is to do nothing, Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not about juxtaposition, and you can there's a whole lot of things you can talk about acting with the potency of how film works, knowing what you're cutting opposite to, and how the film and the poetry of the way the camera moves, how that can augment and complement your performance and allow you to make certain adjustments. But that think a thought crosses your face, camera sees a thought cross your face, the end is, it's true for an open space in the theater, and it's true for the camera. And like I said, the need to communicate, if it's 900 people, your system takes over and you communicate to 900 people through this relationship. Mm-hmm. And if it's one guy in the front row because of the bird flu or whatever, you communicate to that through this relationship. And like I don't even know, it's like sometimes I'll ask a cameraman or a DOP, are we here or are we here? And if he says here, I can't tell you, oh, here, then that's 2.4 inches below the thing. Flip, 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 that means the kind of acting I do. Like, I don't know what it means. But if he says it's there and not there, I don't know. Just some weird alchemy in me goes, okay. It's like the lady in the front row, the guy in the front row has just stepped just a little bit closer. And that just does something. and it tempers the way you communicate. So
and sometimes it also means that you're not doing this with your hands all the time because they're coming in and up there.
right.
And I do want
All
to
of us,
remind
yeah.
also the audience that you have a perfect example to watch what Michael is talking about, because the camera is on Michael, and he's live in front of you.
With the
camera's
monitor.
on
Can we
him,
clock
and
the monitor away? I was
And the
gonna say.
monitor, I mean, but you get to see that he's not, you know, when it's a close-up on him, it's still working for the audience in the back.
Oh, phew.
I'm assuming. I'll have to watch it back afterwards.
He
and
was
give a
so
critique.
big.
Number one, please say your name.
Hello, Michael. My name is Carmen, and first of all, I want to tell you that you are very inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
True,
And
yeah.
Thank you. And I would like to talk a little bit about going back on not working.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm new in the acting in Toronto, and I've been looking for work because
Yeah.
I need to work. And I just got a principal agent, and she told me not to do background work. So I really, I miss being on set because
Yeah.
I used to do background.
Yeah.
And I find it very inspiring to be there.
Yeah.
Because the more I'm there, the more I want to be there,
Sure.
be a principal actor.
Yeah.
So, but she's like, no, on background. What are your thoughts on that? Have you ever done anything?
Yeah, I did when I first got out of theater school, and before Chasing Rainbows and all that, I did a lot of extra work for the CBC, and it was great. And I was a bit of a sponge. I mean, I just spent a lot of my time running around asking people what they did. What do you do? What do you do? What's your job? What's your job? And just that feeling of being on a set and what that felt like. It was all osmosis, and. There's no difference in a way, you know what I mean? I mean, to be around it, if you have the choice to be around it or not be around it, then to be around it, you know? The other thing is, and this is like maybe the third part of the unemployment thing that we're talking about, is that, and I don't know if this is true for anybody else, but I found just myself looking at the last 22 months or so, is that life knows what it's, not to get off the topic of acting and all that as well, but life knows what it's doing too, And this 22-month oasis, this unplanned oasis that I've had, where I've had to deal with confidence and stuff like that, as soon as that's happened, life started to pour in. Like my dad got sick, and a family member passed away, and I hurt my back, and my daughter was going to university, and there was just like life needed to be tended to, and it just said, everyone out of the pool. This is what's happening right now, and it was invaluable. Not only, of course, for life, because we have to remember that if we're going to hold the mirror up to man and all those romantic notions, then we got to keep our current plugged into it as well. We need to. Have stuff to draw on, and so for me, that's been a big part of it too. I've made a lot of discoveries that I never could have made, that I know I can bring back to the work, just from the sheer fact of living. You know what I mean? So there's all of that as well.
It's
so.
Fascinating that you described this time as an oasis, which is where we would go in a desert to find water and save us.
But there is none.
Well,
no, I know. Yeah, no.
That's not an oasis.
No, I know. Oh, mirage.
That's a mirage.
Yeah,
no,
sorry,
you actually
sorry.
said, had you said mirage, I would have been going, oh dear, pool of vomit. But no, you said oasis, which I thought was very encouraging and nurturing, and that you're not wallowing. Fantastic. Wow. Thank you very much. I think we have someone at number 2, and then we'll go back to number 1. Say your name, please.
Hey, my name's Marco, and hey, Mike. I just wanted to know, typically, let me just raise this guy here.
We can hear you.
Typically, what would be your day on set? Like, do you temper it based on how difficult your day is? Like, I mean, you probably do, your prep work beforehand, before arriving to set. But I'm asking, like, when you're on set and, they're setting up and it's downtime,
Yeah.
are you back in your trailer? Are you a social butterfly?
Yeah, I get it. I
mean,
get it.
do you
Yeah.
know, is it-
I just want to know, are you trying to rub something in right now? Because
I don't know.
if that's what you took away from it, then
No, I didn't take that. So I got you. Every day on set is different in the demands of what has to be done that day. And everyone has their own way of staying engaged. A film set is one of the skill sets that you need to learn that is precipitated by all of that waiting around and by all the pretense of what it is to make a film. You do have to find a way to keep your system engaged and running. I know people, and hats off to them, I can't, but they can kibitz about the Olympics and talk about that, and we're rolling, and anyway, yeah, blah, blah, action, and they can do that. I can't do that. And so I bow down to them. I need to be over with my earphones in, with the music I chose, or in my trailer. That's me, because I can't do that. But the proof is in the pudding. If they can do that and they're brilliant, that's great. And as long as the social cueing and the etiquette of being aware that everybody's got a different process and everyone deserves to have the respect of what they need to do. But really the question, like the most salient answer is about how you keep your system running. Because, and the analogy I've often used when I teach is it's like on a film set, it's like you're in a car and the car is on, you can't turn your car off. Because the car has to remain in idle all day. So if I got a big emotional scene coming, but with the lighting, it's probably going to be 3 hours away. I can't be in my trailer like, or I'm going to have nothing in 3 hours. But I also can't, 3 hours, turn the car off and read a book or look at because then, I don't want to be caught like, oh, shit, come on, fuck, I don't want to be caught, and
so
I
you
have
keep
been
it simmering then throughout
Yeah.
the day.
So and everyone's got, every system is individual, so everybody knows what is the way that keeps you. For me, music is like I find, and this is just idiosyncratic to my OCD-ness, but I often don't listen to music in my real life. I mean, I listen to a lot of spoken word, and I've realized in the last 2 years why, is because in the last 2 years when I've heard music, it's an acting thing for me. It turns, I build playlists of things that evoke certain things for certain scenes or for the character, something he might have listened to, something that's just maybe emotionally evocative. And when I realize now, going through this period, that in the Oasis, what I realize is that music is a tool for me. And so, if I'm just chopping vegetables in my kitchen and a song comes on and Sarah McLachlan starts to do that to me, I was like, I got to turn it off. And it's a silly thing, but it's just, I've front-loaded music as so much of the way I keep my system running on a set and spend so much time there that I've realized that it's a trigger. And I'm trying to toy with it. Well, we'll just listen to Sarah just for, So, But you know what I mean? So whatever it is, music, whatever keeps your system up and running and engaged and available and ready to go,
And make sure that you keep your simmer going, your idle going. Fantastic.
The car's got to remain in idle, however that happens for you.
Number one?
Hi, my name's Michael. Hi,
Hey.
Michael. I'm not really sure what my question is, but there's a concept that you've brought back a few times. You've said the word romantic or romance. And I'm just curious, I don't know, what is it? You've said that you've admired other artists because you see in them something romantic. What is that romance with the art, and what makes a romantic artist? And
I think a romantic artist. Okay, so now you've given me an opportunity to be romantic. I think that we're like. I think all artists are like shamans in a way. I think that we serve a critical function. No, we're not. It's not brain surgery and it's not rocket science, but it does serve its function, and it's a very important function in any given society. So to remain romantic about that, what that exchange is, and we know it from our own lives. When I go to see a movie, or a play, and I'm moved by it, it teaches me something about my life. You know, it's like the things that that my personal hero and my hero's journey of my real life, when I see someone go through a 3-act structure and exorcise something within them that I don't feel brave enough to do in my own life, that gives me that possibility, then art has served its function. And to me, it's a shame that I have to call that romantic, because that's just the job, also, you know. And I think the desire to be, I've always been one of my other go-to adages is you don't sell what you do, you sell your love for what you do. Period. You know, you don't. It's not about, hey, Sean Penn had a great line where he said, too many movies are made to impress and not express, and that's the distinction for me. And I remember reading something recently where, not that recently, but it was about the Greeks. It was in the Greek theater, and it was accounts of actors way back then, like the birth of theater, practically, right? And they were talking about things like, there was 2 accounts that I loved. One of them was, the guy was saying, hey, the way, and these guys, remember, they had the big masks and this thing with all the highly theatrical amphitheater stuff. And he said, he prided himself because he said, in the account was, the way I talk in my real life is exactly the way I talk on the stage. And because he knew that there was a romance to that. And another one was, it was in the 4th century. It's one of the Electra plays, and one of the guys playing one of the sisters, he had to come on as her, and basically the scene said, she comes on with the ashes of her dead brother and laments. And in this account, the actor said he had trouble lamenting, so it's like we get the scene, I got to cry on Thursday, So he had trouble lamenting. So what he did was he got the ashes of his recently deceased son, his actual son, and he brought those on stage with him as the sister playing the thing, and he had no trouble lamenting. No. That's romance, So method didn't start with Brando or Stanislavski or Uta Hagen or whatever. That's the desire to be good at what we do and to know that what we do is important has been alive from time immemorial, and that's romance,
It's too bad it wasn't a week ago, because you'd get a lot of Valentines after this one today. You'd be roses, chocolates, dates, anything you want. Number 2.
I'm actually really glad he asked that question. It sort of ties into mine.
Sorry, so you have to get a little closer.
Oh, sorry. There you go. I'm glad you asked that question before, because it kind of ties into mine. Your character in being Erica, you're talking about being close to the chest. Mm-hmm. How much of those philosophies were really coming from your heart, although I know you're expressing the lines, obviously, and how much of that was coming from the writing itself?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. I mean, when you board that train and hopefully you're going to be on that train for a while, you do want to start making some ties that are going to have some longevity to them. So, I'm a closet, philosopher anyway, so I've always been very interested in, what the wisdom traditions have to say and all of that stuff. So I have a whole other part of my life that I'm very equally passionate and curious about. And that happened to be one of those parts where it was going to be appropriate to keep that interest alive there. And also sitting down with Jana, one of the first things we did is, she talked about, the terrestrial aspect. I said, who is this guy? Is he an alien? Is he an angel? I need to know so I can, and she said, okay, well, we're not even going to show this till, we might not even get to season 2, but it won't be till season 2 that you're going to find out he's terrestrial, he's got this daughter, he's going through his own thing about, all of that. And so that to me gave me lots of grist to play with. And so I became, obviously I use, the whole Dr. Tom quoting thing. I'm a fan of that stuff anyway, so there was a symbiosis there of finding that thing that says, the thing you mean, kind of thing. So yeah, there was definitely an alchemy in there that lent itself to that character's worldview.
Number one?
Hi, Michael. You mentioned that you lived in Los Angeles for 8 years.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, can you tell us what you gained as an actor living there? If you notice a difference between American actors versus Canadian actors, what the casting process is like in there in comparison to us?
It was, you know, I was there for 8 years. I was there between 90 and 98. You know, life stuff happened. My daughter was born there and all of that kind of stuff. But in terms of the business, what I realize is we have a huge advantage here in Canada, New York too, just in terms of there's no theatrical tradition to speak of in LA. So even if you were born and bred in LA and you had all the right romantic notions about why you wanted to be an actor, the chances that you were going to run into the right teacher or the right training or have that is going to be pretty rare. So what I noticed, actors my age at the time, was they didn't have a vocabulary to talk about the work that I did, that I was lucky enough to have, having come from. And I knew it from my friends that came from New York that I met there, because it was like anything from England. There was a way of talking about the work, that my God, there was a craft kind of thing. So there was a whole, not discouraging part, but like for example, just like the one thing that kind of puts concisely the whole LA experience for me was that, you know, I was married at the time, and when my ex-wife and I had to, because I'm very romantic about being an actor, in LA, because I started to kind of go, this is a very myopic one-industry town, and everyone's an actor, and everyone's got a screenplay on the back seat, and it was just like that, you know. And I just started to kind of keep a lower profile about, you know, being romantic about stuff, because I just felt that kind of inherent distance. And so for my ex-wife and I would ever have to go to a party, because it would just look really bad, because we met those people there, they invited us, and if we had to go, and all, you know, we literally would be driving, Linda and I would be like, we'd be driving to the party, and I would turn to her, and I'd say, okay, fitness instructor, real estate agent. and we would do that. Because I found it way more, you know, if someone came up to me at a party and said, hey, so, you know, what do you, I'm a fitness instructor, I'd go, yeah. And then, you know, off the, you know, one of those. Or if someone went, oh, yeah, cool, and I knew I had been a fitness instructor, there was enough to start a conversation, then get to actual real conversation. And same with Linda, loves real estate, so, you know, and I just found that was a telltale sign for me about how I was starting to, how LA was starting to kind of, you know, just weigh down the romance, you know.
And did you get a lot of auditions? Did you get to know the casting director?
I did. You know, like one of the stories too that was indicative of that whole experience was, you know, LA is just very, because there's not that, because it doesn't come from that theatrical, you know, tradition and vocabulary and stuff. I even found people in the business, like casting directors, you know, they would want to say, do you do comedy or do you do drama? Like, they'd want to know, you know? Like, it was like, I was always flabbergasted by that. I never knew how to answer that. Well, I do both, you know? It's kind of like asking a painter what color they paint in, you know? Brown. I just do brown, you know? Like, I never knew, you know? And you know, like, so when I got my demo together, I put my demo together, and, you know, I had enough credits and generated in this country where, you know, it was like a nice kind of, you know, cut a nice wide swath, which was my intention, you know. And I hired a manager, because in LA you have to hire managers to get agents to do what they're supposed to do. And so, you know, you got all that stuff going on. And I remember he sent this particular manager I had, because I went through like 3 or something. He sent my demo to a woman who was head of casting at Paramount at the time. This is like many years ago. And he called me, and I've told my students that I've worked with this story before too, but he called me and he said, okay, here's the feedback. She called me and she said, why did you send me a tape with a bunch of your clients on it? And he said, no, that's not a bunch of our clients, that's Michael. No, the thing with the priest and the blood and the blood and the blood, that one. Why did you send me that? He goes, no, that's Michael, that's all Michael. And she didn't see me. She wouldn't see me, because she she was like, no, it's just too discombobulating. You know, I want to be able to flip through the 8x10s and go, that's what he does, that's what she does. And so that's just her, and maybe just her that week or whatever. Let's give her lots of credit. But there was that feeling, there was a pervasive feeling there that it was very like that, you know. And it was so antithetical to all these romantic notions about and how we're trained to be actors that is just not up and running there, you know.
So you left.
So I left. I stayed there for 8 years. I did very, very, very small parts in very, very, very big films. You know, I think I said "fire" in Amistad. You know, you know, and I did you know, big parts in independent films that never saw the light of day. And I came back here a lot of times to do things that were actually really satiating. And then that happened so much. And at the beginning, I would say, okay, I'm leaving. I'm going back to Canada. I'm going to do this thing. It's going to take me 4 weeks or whatever. And I used to tell them, you know, and then I just stopped telling them. I'd come back like 2 months later, and, you know, they didn't even know I was gone, you know. Anyway.
Number two.
Oh,
Hi. First of all,
what's your name?
It's Anne Thornley Brown.
Hi.
Anne.
Hi. First of all, I'd like you to thank you for coming and being so open, because let's face it, we all have our ups and downs and get discouraged, and it's been really, really encouraging. I appreciate it.
Good.
I like your idea about people getting together and reading and keeping kind of the juices flowing. I also have a question about what are some practical things that you found to be effective in just reminding casting people and producers, you know, I'm here, without, you know, being obnoxious.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, doing, you know, good work creates good work. You know, when you come in there, you develop relationships with them, and, you know, I've learned more about what to bring into those rooms by being on the other side of the table and seeing how what a challenge it is to do what they do. I mean, you know, when you think about the whole Glengarry Glen Ross part of it, where you need to look good when you come in to make them look good, because this is okay. Now so and so's coming in there. You know, it's like so the onus just to prove them right that they brought you in. So it all really comes down to that. Like I wouldn't know any other way to, you know, send the candygram or whatever to, you know, I don't know. That doesn't feel within the wheelhouse of stuff that is in my control. But what is in my control is to pass the threshold of that casting room and leave some good work in that room, regardless of whether I get the job. And then you'll be remembered. You won't be remembered maybe for that role, but it's funny how there's a real exponential math to the way auditions work, you know. I mean, the brutal numbers are you do 10 auditions and you get 1 callback and you are on a roll, you know. Like, that's great, man. So you got to eat those 9 rejections and move forward and go, that's good, I got a callback. And then the math just goes out from there. And, you know, things you're in control of and things you're not. You are in control of what you bring into that room. And that's, to me, the clearest and the most salient way to leave impressions on casting directors and go, I'm here. You do it in the room, you know.
And we can't forget that auditioning is part of our job. It is what we do. And it's not just when we go and land the gig and get paid for that. The job is also doing the audition.
And I know, and there's no, you know, even though I talk a lot about no difference between, you know, acting on the camera and, I mean, there is something about acting in auditions, as we all know, it's not a wholly conducive, it's just hard. There's so many obstacles to the work being about what the work's really about, you know. And so the audition is a new set of muscles. It is a skill set that the more you do it, the better you get at it. You know, I mean, because it's not you know, for me anyway. The machinery that clicks over once someone says you have a job to the machinery of just showing you, because they want to see, you know, if the character's name is Jim. And when all the guys walk in the room, whether they say it or not, they're waiting for Jim to come in. And that's what they want, even if they know you. Is this Jim, you know? And so you got to come in with your best, you know. It's like, to me, it's like I can't do a fully drawn out, because that's 3.5 weeks of the rehearsal, and you'll get that if you hire me. But I can do a fairly good detailed charcoal sketch of Jim. This is kind of the direction I'd go with Jim. This is him. Not colored in, you know, and all of that, you know. So I think I kind of, that keeps me from going a bit crazy, to know that I can only stake out a territory in an audition room and have good social cueing and leave good work in there. That's within my control, but the rest isn't. You know?
And we also have to be prepared that you bring in this sketch and they say, no. Can you draw it again, please?
Absolutely. Flip,
Yeah.
you know, get the charcoal out, rolling. And,
Okay,
and
there
then,
you
then
go.
a live action
yeah,
one like
it's
that.
got a bigger nose now. I like it. Okay, so
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Number one.
Hello, I'm Richard Lett.
Hi,
Thank
Richard.
you, Michael, for being so relatable today. I
you're
watched you
welcome.
last year, and it's been a remarkably different talk, so thank you. You mentioned spoken word, which is something that I do, and I'm surprised how little crossover there is. I work in the world of stand-up, I work in the world of slam poetry, and I'm also an actor, and I can number on one hand how many other artists also find themselves in those other areas. And I'm thinking that maybe we get a little tunnel vision in this business. I mean, you've done television, film. Does that mean you will never do a fringe play? Does that mean that you won't explore other areas of performance where these skills are, you know, highly valuable,
Right.
but you know, the pays and the whole format is a little bit different? So
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's just the way the business is set up. You know, there is a, you know, voice work has a kind of a, you know, it's hard for non-people that aren't in that to break in. It's a very, you know, it has a, you know, a concentric circle around it of those are the people that do that. So the business is a little bit set up like that too. But that doesn't mean, but that's only from the business side of their point of view. You know, to get into, you know, I got a voiceover agent and stuff like that, and so that's been something in the last 22 months. I've been doing auditions on my phone and sending them in, and, you know, and I love spoken word stuff too. You know, the first thing I ask the voiceover agent is like, do we do that in Canada? I would love to, you know, when so-and-so reads a book out loud, you know, I love the book because that guy's a great actor, and he's reading that book, and I love that. I love that exchange. Or even doing radio plays. I mean, it's all the same thing. And so, yeah, you have your line in as many ponds as possible. There should be the crossover. But from the business's point of view, I think the onus is on us as the actors to insinuate ourselves into those pools that have seemingly fence around it to begin with, you know.
So you would do a fringe show?
Yeah, why not, you know?
I think that's what one of the questions was.
yeah, well, just can you go back once you've hit a certain level?
I don't think there's a back and a forward, you know. Like I say, on my deathbed, I'm not going to be, you know, there's no back.
It's just
you know?
been my experience that you don't
Yeah,
see a
yeah.
lot of, you know.
And you know, sometimes the agents will go, "No, come on, you can't," you know. I don't know, and especially now in my life, I'm just more, I don't know. I just don't think there's a back and a forward, you know.
Well,
I think the work is the work, you know, and whenever we can get our little hands in there and just be junkyard dogs about just the doing of it, however that manifests itself in whatever form of the medium, is like that's what we do, you know.
There's a slam on Sunday at the Drake, so.
Oh, cool.
There's going to be a plug in there. I knew that. So you've been watching all these tremendous actors, the sort of an anthology of these great actors. Are there roles that you would have loved to have sunk your teeth into?
Oh God, yeah, you know. I mean, every actor, male or female, goes, okay, choose someone's career. And you go, okay, you know who that is in your head, right? Because it's.
Well, who is it?
Well, I mean, I love actors of a certain, like the Gary Oldmans and the Daniel Day-Lewises and the Sean Penns and guys that. And what I like about them, from a romantic point of view, is I know the generosity involved in what they do. Not just the craft and the acumen and all that, but I know that if I go to see a Daniel Day-Lewis film, I'm going to not see Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm going to see something much more generous and much more, I'm not going to see him, because I don't care about, I'm going to see something else. And so I'm attracted to that kind of generosity, and yeah, I'm attracted to that. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I would. Yeah, you know, I mean, there are
Talking
all
about
those.
Jack Nicholson now.
But you know, you hear Sean Penn talk about directing him on Crossing Guard and stuff, and you know, the other thing, you know, I ordered the Actors Studio. You just start to watch. I watched Russell Crowe and Sean Penn and De Niro, and you'd say Meryl Streep. You just start to flip through books, and you know, there's some great acting books out there that you know cost nothing and fill up the gas tank with some high octane as well. So
do you have recommendations for those books?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Larry Moss's Intent to Live is a great book. You know, The Way of the Actor by Alan Bates, I think his name is an amazing book. Christopher Folger's The Writer's Journey, even though it talks about writers, it's actually a great book. I think every actor should read that book. Sorry? Yeah? I mean, you know, and even books that aren't necessarily about acting, like, you know, Studs Terkel, I don't know if anyone's heard about the Working books. You know, Working's great. I mean, I have those on the shelf just like, so if you have to go in, to get, like we're talking about going in and playing, you know, small parts or whatever, I'm going in to play, say you're going in to play the cop or the prostitute or the lawyer or whatever you're going in, you can take down Studs Terkel and go flip, 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 lawyer section, and get like, you know, first person, it's actually a great place to get monologues from too, because basically all he did is go around to different, you know, milieus of workplaces and just interview people who you know, did railway ties for a living. And he gets, you know, Bernard, born in 19 this, and who's been doing that all his life. And they're like a primer for you know, a quick thing on getting real, organic, true to life, you know, character studies of people who work in certain places. So stuff like that, you know, and just life in general, of course.
Are there roles that still really frighten you?
Any role frightens me right now. Any role frightens me.
Yeah.
I'll be terrified.
Yeah?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, even the auditions, I can tell in my own system, like, you know, it's just confidence, you know, like, and I don't, put it this way, I'd rather battle the demon of my lack of confidence than be like, whatever.
Right.
Call me in, man. You know, because then I know I'm dead in the water.
Do you have another question?
I want to be scared.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be scared if I wasn't scared.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Michael. A question about aging. As you get older and you're starting to fit into your skin differently, how do you look at that now?
Two answers to that. I mean, one is, you know, you have to, as an actor, you have to kind of, you know your hit in terms of where your range sits, and also know, like, what can I now play between this and this, you know? And I always like to, you know, push the boundaries and also play, you know, I know for me, just the physiognomy of my face, if I have, you know, because my hair is as gray as my beard. If I shaved my head bald right now, my hair would come in exactly like this. And so if it was this short and I kept this, I can push myself up I'm 52, I can push my age up pretty good. If I completely shave clean and keep my hair dark and short, I can age down pretty good. So to be aware of that is an important part of age, so that when a character comes, even for an audition, like tomorrow I could shave this off, you know. Tomorrow I could shave my head if I had to do something, you know, right away, if it was that, and it seemed a possibility, maybe not just for an audition or whatever, but so there's that part, and to know that there's a cockpit of modulation that you can start to play with, male and female. We all know, like, just things like hairline. Is you're wearing your hair up or wearing your hair down, and, you know, away from, just all of that stuff. I mean, women know this better than men, but men as actors, we know that, you know, you were saying to me yesterday, you know, just doing this, having the opportunity to just play with different configurations. The other part about age is also just that we're, you know, unlike being a novelist or whatever, I mean, we are our product. So as we age, I mean, I ain't going to play Hamlet anymore. I'm not going to play the early 20s guy, you know. So you have to kind of, like, be realistic too about where you're moving to. The good news about that is that they, as we notice when we get older, and we have more to bring to bear. We know what weight is. I mean, I played roles when I was younger, especially in the theater, but some in film too, where it was like I shouldn't have been playing that role. I didn't have the weight to play that role. I didn't even have a kid yet. I didn't know what the weight of being a father was, And I talked myself out of a few roles because I'm not old enough. I won't serve that, So just being realistic about that too. But as you get older, I just think that the roles, by the nature of the human condition, get more, you get closer to when mortality starts to raise its head in any real fundamental way. The characters themselves start to get more interesting because the stakes are getting higher. Is this hero in this hero's journey? They need to. The stakes of them pulling the sword from the stone at 65 or whatever is bigger than the guy in his early 20s, So just dramatically, it becomes a really interesting range to look at,
Very optimistic answer.
I don't know.
Put some gray in your temples. Number 2.
Hi there, gentlemen. My name is Kirk. I'm just wondering, Michael, you seem to have. Let me preface this. As an actor, I think probably one of the most challenging things that you can do is a one-man show. So I'm just wondering, have you ever, or would you ever consider doing that? Because I think you'd be brilliant, man.
Wow, I feel so insignificant all of a sudden.
Sorry.
I don't know.
But it's not about me.
I'd be terrified. This is a two-hander, David.
It
This
is,
a two-hander. I don't know. I would be. I did that in theater school. I did a one-man show. They weren't like long form. They kind of got longer as the years. You started 5 minutes, and then 20 minutes, and then an hour, and third year or whatever. And it's a terrifying thing to do. I don't immediately look. I don't accuse myself of having that kind of performance energy. Like I feel more, and I always like when I see Rick Miller, and I've come to know Rick a bit, and we did something together. Like that guy is amazing to watch on stage, But he's got a quality that I don't think I possess. Like I would much rather go down the rabbit hole of a character and then be thrown into a mix of other people that have gone down their rabbit holes. I feel more at home there than, the Michael show. That's just me, So I've never been pushed, had to put my courage to the sticking place for it, but
Do you have a show for Michael?
What's that?
Do you have a show for Michael?
No. I was just wondering.
Yeah, cool.
So I wanted to ask you, some performers, you hear them talk about their performances, their films, their television work, and they go, I don't watch my work. I can't ever watch my work. Talk about that a little bit. Do you watch and study your own work?
No. I mean, what I did was one of my unemployment exercises, or my career survival management exercises.
In the Oasis.
Was, after I'd done the Dan DeLewis Gary Oldman Festival, and after I'd seen the films, and after I'd read all those books I talked about, I poured myself a glass of wine, and because I have my 5 auditions that I did, my self-tapes on desktop, and I said, okay, and I got the Yellow Liga pad out, and I watched my auditions again, both from a standpoint of audition skill set, which we were talking about, but also just, for all the other stuff. And I had notes to give to myself, and it was nice to have when you have the distance sometimes, and a month had gone by, I can be clinical about myself. So I don't watch my work like that. I mean, there's a whole thing about rushes too. Like, the main part about it is, the great opportunity that the camera affords us is the chance to put our work under a microscope, that brutal, truth-telling microscope, and really test out the clarity of our thoughts. And it's one of the art forms. With rushes and with looking that you get to do it. The painter gets to paint, and then stand back and put on the critical artist's eye, and then doff that hat off and paint. And actors, on the stage, never. But on camera, once in a while, you get that opportunity to just look, And I remember when I first went Chasing Rainbows, like way back when, And I'd never done film and television before, and it took about 2 years to shoot, and it was like a film school. And we saw Rushes, it was on HDTV, and so there was no turnaround for the processing. So once we were underway, you'd shoot all day and see Rushes every night, shoot all day and see Rushes every night. And that was a huge learning curve for me, because I remember the first few months, I was just like, oh, God, Paul is so good looking, and my nose is like, oh, God, my voice, and I just, all of the normal, hearing yourself on tape for the first time, all of those things, right? And then after you get inured, you stick there. It was like Clockwork Orange, having to but if you stick to it, you start all of that self-criticism starts to go away, and you start to get clinical. When you start to go, I could actually look at the work and go, oh, that was clear. Oh, that wasn't clear. That's not clear. That's clear. That's not clear. And that's not clear. That's clear. And like that. And so that, that little litmus test that you can do with your own work, I think, can become valuable.
Yeah,
the only other aspect when that happens is sometimes if I've done a film and a character is quite physically far away from me, or there's something about it that I want to get and directors that trust me to, because a lot of times directors don't, I will look at the Rushes just to check out like an aesthetic weight. I don't want to see it, I just want to see it once to see if what I'm feeling over here is translating at all over there. Just to get a sniff of it. Oh yeah, okay, good, I got enough, good, okay. And then back to work, and I don't want to see it anymore. So it can serve all sorts of different functions.
Amazing. I think we have time for one last question. Number 2. Say your name.
My name is Elise. My question is, you've described this beautiful sense of romanticism or romanticness of your art. When you're going through this oasis that for many of us could derive this sense of cynicism or even a jadedness, how do you move past that and keep this beautiful sense of your craft?
I have no idea. I mean, I really don't. Part of it's fear. I mean, I'm not built for anything else, Like I was saying to my sister the other day, I don't know. I have no other skill set, Like, maybe I'll go back and be a fitness instructor again or whatever, But how everyone keeps their thing alive is completely, everyone in this room is going to have a different trajectory and a different metabolism and a different way of finding that, But if you stick with, you don't sell what you do, you sell your love for what you do. My love for it has never gone away, which is a very selfish thing. I love, for completely, unromantic reasons in terms of shamans of our generation and all that, I love the all cylinders firing process of pretending to be another human being, inside a group of people that are trying to do the same thing, And if that starts to die in me, then I will walk. In fact, it'll be my responsibility to walk away. And but until such time, I won't. And so, this is just the way. In the last March will be 22 months. This is the way that I've done it. And it's a day-to-day thing. You wake up in the morning, and you begin. But like I say, life. It knows what it's doing, And every, the irony is, we play people as actors, heroes and heroes' journeys, and all that Joseph Campbell stuff, other great books to read. But that whole, the hero is in the ordinary world, and then the hero gets the call to adventure, and then the hero refuses the call, and then the mentor arrives, and then that whole thing. And we can never forget that we're also, meanwhile, in our own lives, I'm 52 years into my hero's journey. That's got its own calls to adventure and its own refusals of the call, and waiting for my own mentors to show up internally and externally. And if you keep as actors, we have to keep an ear open to life to make sure that all that grist for the mill is available to us. And as people who have chosen to be artists, we have to be the same way. So to be kind to ourselves and be open and kind of have a little view about where you are in your hero's journey, you know? And maybe you're just at the beginning of the first act when, you know, you've refused to call and something inside is going to say, no, wait. No, I'm quitting, man. That's it. It's not working. Okay, wait. Who knows? Don't give up.
Well, I can, please. Whew. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are once again blessed to have Michael Riley come and share his life with us and his understanding of romance and art. And thank you very much. Please fill out your forms. The wine and cheese is happening now. We need to know how you appreciate the conference, all your different workshops that you've gone to. There's one more day in this location, and then there's the final day at the ACTRA offices. Thank you very much. And there's the ACTRA Awards on Saturday. Thank you very much.